Between the SEC's zero tolerance policy for what the CEO, CFO certifications say and the overall importance of these certifications, amendments of the certifications happen all the time. Today on Zippy Point. I'm Brock Romanek. I'm a big fan of yous. So as noted in my separate vid guide about what the CEO, CFO certifications are, and I have some special guests at the end of that video, we talk about the sub-certification culture, a lot of practical in-house perspective stuff. CEOs and CFOs are required to provide two separate certifications for the quarterly and annual reports that companies file with the SEC, the 10Qs and the 10Ks. Both of these certifications are required to be filed as exhibits to those periodic reports, the 10Ks and the 10Qs, as exhibits 31 and 32 for the Section 302 and the Section 906 certifications for each 10K and 10Q. And you want to see that separate vid guide about what these 302, 906 certifications are, a link to that video is beneath this video. So the legal requirements for these certifications are set forth in item 601B31 of Regulation SK and Exchange Act Rules 13A14 and 15D14. Item 601B31 sets forth the precise text, the five things required in a Section 302 certification. Although Section 906 doesn't have the benefit of SEC rulemaking like Section 302, since that is a criminal law provision that is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice, the DOJ, Section 906 of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act from 2002 is the source of what this Section 906 certifications require. And that section sets forth the two things that specifically must be included in the 906 certification. But for limited exceptions, Section 302 certifications must be in the exact form, the precise form prescribed by the exhibit filing requirement. Adding a knowledge qualifier or any other change is not permissible, not permitted. The SEC is a zero tolerance policy here and does check the certifications routinely when a periodic report is pulled for review. So when the CorpFin staff pulls a 10K or 10Q for review, they're going to check your certifications, make sure they're kosher. Note that the SEC staff checks the 906 certification too, even though those are the jurisdiction of the DOJ. The DOJ staff just simply doesn't get involved in reviewing the 906 certs at all. They don't get into disclosure like the CorpFin staff does. Okay, that's the basics of what these certifications are. Again, more details are in that other video if you really want to learn about the certifications in full. So let's talk about when and how you amend them. A Section 302 certification is always required whenever you amend a 10Q or a 10K, although sometimes an abbreviated certification is permitted. Here's the upshot of when abbreviated certifications are permitted. Paragraphs 1 and 2 must always be included, that the CEO, CFO has read the report, 10K or the 10Q, and that those reports don't contain any material misstatements or omissions. In this CorpFin staff interpretation, they delve into paragraph 3 of the certifications about the financial statements fairly presenting. The staff says that paragraph 3 can be omitted if there are no financials in the amended filing, in the amended 10K or 10Q. The financials are not being amended at all. And if there are no financials in the amended periodic report, then Section 906 certifications can be omitted entirely, the entire thing from the amended filing. So you would only have an abbreviated 302 certification for an amended 10Q or 10K that didn't have any amendments to the financials. And that's because the Section 906 certifications are required only in periodic reports that contain financial statements, as noted in this adopting release back in the Sarbanes-Oxley days. And then in this CorpFin staff interpretation about paragraph 4 of the 302 certification, about controls and procedures, paragraph 4 can be omitted if the amendment does not contain an amendment to the item 307 or 308 of SK disclosures about the evaluation of disclosure controls and procedures, internal controls for financial reporting. And then in this CorpFin staff interpretation about paragraph 5, about discussions with audit committee, same thing. If there is no amendment to the 307 or 308 SK disclosure about disclosure controls and internal controls, you can omit paragraph 5. So if you forget to file your certification as exhibits in your original 10K or 10Q, this CorpFin staff interpretation requires the amended filing to be comprised of the entire thing. And even worse, if the amended filing is past the periodic reports filing deadline, your 10Q, your 10K is now considered to be delinquent according to this Corp Fin staff interpretation. So that's a pretty big deal. You don't want to forget your CEO, CFO certifications in your original filings. In comparison, an amended certification just to correct something doesn't render the filing delinquent. That's good news. Under this Corp Fin staff interpretation, a full amendment of the 10K or 10Q is required when a 302 certification references the wrong fiscal year. You blow, you're cutting and pasting from last year's certification and you forget to change the year. Ow! You need to file the entire periodic report again, just like you do if you forget your certifications altogether. So that's a pretty big penalty. You got to be careful when you're cutting and pasting. Same thing if your certification doesn't have a conformed signature, fails to be dated, or signed by someone who is not your CEO or CFO or persons performing the equivalent functions. For all of these, you need to file the entire periodic report again according to this Corp Fin staff interpretation. So here's an example of a full certification with all 5 paragraphs for an amended 10K. Now let's talk about more minor 302 certification errors, the kind that aren't addressed in this Corp Fin staff interpretation. The Corp Fin staff will issue a futures comment and request that the problem be corrected in future filings. These types of errors are minor word flubs, deleting a preposition, the word the, or other tweaks to the prescribed language that don't change the meaning of the certification one iota. That's important. The SEC staff will even give you a futures filings pass if you file the certifications at the end of the periodic report rather than in the exhibits as required. If you file a certification in a way that you didn't mean to, the best you can do is to file an amendment to your filing with an explanation about what the issue is, an explanatory note. But the SEC won't remove a filed certification from its EDGAR database no matter how much you plead. And even if they did, the damage has been done. It's been pushed out to all sorts of secondary distribution platforms, and SEC has no control over those, so it wouldn't be deleted from those, even if the SEC staff happen to accommodate you, which they won't. They're not going to help you. Anyways, let me know what you think.